Hi,
Hola,
my name is Ashley Greer.
Daniel Myers. Together we're I'm Daniel Myers, and together we're Crew Creative.
Okay, there we go. All right, so we're going to be answering some questions about murals. If you are thinking about becoming a muralist, we'll fill you in with all the information and little tips that we have working in this full time. How did you get into murals?
My first one was for the Good Days. It was for a friend, actually. They asked me to paint their logo on top of their building, a thrift store, which is still active in downtown Monroe now, different location. But that was my first one. And really, I feel like getting that first one started, takes away all the pressure after that. So once you get your first one, you might want to do it for a discounted rate or something to get your practice in, and then you can go from there.
Yeah, I was working in a gym. The owner of the gym knew that I liked painting. He just asked me, hey, do you want to paint a mural here? And I was like, yeah, actually I do. It was a very discounted mural. It was like $600. It was a massive wall. It took me months to finish. People came in and saw it and they were like, oh, I want one too. So it just opened up more doors for me. But before that, I painted small things on walls, like graphics and stuff for a dentist's office and another little gym, but nothing that big. When did you realize you wanted to do this full time?
I've always wanted to do art full time, and the murals is just a really cool way to help get my art out there in more of a public aspect. I really like being able to make things that people can enjoy out in the world. Those are the things when you're out in different towns or museums or buildings, everybody wants to take a picture in front of the mural or the design out there. So I think it's always cool to be a part of that community aspect.
When I was working a 9 to 5, I was working in the fitness industry. I would go to work every day and I would just think that I was wasting my time because I was like, this is not helping me become a better artist. That's what I want to do with my life. I just want to become the best artist I can be and paint as many paintings as I can. So I just felt like working was taking me away from that. So I realized that I needed to find a way to make a living off of my art. Okay, what's the Krewe vibe all about? Yeah, how do you answer that? I will say that with Krewe, we want this to be a community, putting focus on community and everybody just hanging out and enjoying art together. How did you find your first few clients?
Mainly word of mouth. So I did that first Good Days mural, and then they wanted something on the inside. That was my second one. And from there, just people saw the work that I posted, other business owners and stuff, and they reached out to me from there. So that's why I say getting that first one done and out of the way is crucial, just so people can see. Because nobody's just walking around knocking on doors like, hey, do you paint murals? No, you have to do something to put out there so people know that that's something you can do.
Yeah, you definitely have to build your own door. You have to put your work out there and sign it, put your handle on there so people can see who it's from and then they'll reach out to you. And obviously posting on social media, that has gotten us a lot of clients that way, just, because you can post something on social media and it could go anywhere. What fears did you have before going full time?
I mean, obviously with any job switching from I was in medical school before I switched, so not totally like some people, but I mean, medical school was my job then. Just not knowing art is a very non-set path. You never know where your next job is going to come from. So that was the scary aspect, but when I was in medical school, I was putting in so much time and effort into something I wasn't really passionate about. So I figured if I could put that much energy towards something I don't like, surely if I focus it on a job in the arts, then I will be able to get somewhere. So you just kind of have to have that faith and be ready to really grind and work through it.
Getting into it, I wasn't as fearful because I was so young. I think I was in my early 20s when I quit and just went full time, and I knew that I would have time to figure it out, and I didn't really have that many expenses. I had my car note, my car insurance, and my phone bill, but that was pretty much it. It was traveling around with one of my friends, Grant Terry. We're doing a tour, and we lined it up to where we would go to one location and perform there, and they would just have a check ready for us, so we knew that we had something coming in over the next year or so we kind of planned it out already. And then all the art sales on top of that I just got to keep. But yeah, I kind of did a little bit of planning, and then I just wasn't that fearful because I was so young. What moment made you feel I'm actually doing this? I think for me, when I felt like, wow, I'm like finally doing this, is when I was posting reels on Instagram and I was just like hanging out at home, and then I would, get commissions that way, just like sitting at home, like posting a video, and then somebody would ask me, hey, can you paint my pet? And I would be like, yeah, totally. And I just kept it rolling that way. That made me feel, like I had something steady going. So yeah, that and the murals, I think. Just like consistently booking murals.
Yeah, kind of same thing Ashley said. Like after that, there wasn't really anything that like made me feel like, okay, I'm doing this. But after a year of consistently like being able to find commissions, find murals, find other projects, I was like, okay, this is, something I can sustain and keep doing. So I think just making it through that like first year of having no really ends in the art community around here or anything like that, not knowing how to make art that way, to surviving for a whole year off solely that was kind of the first thing. It's like, okay, this is something I can do.
Okay, now for the business questions. How do you decide what to charge for a mural?
Okay, so there are a couple of things that we look at when going based off a mural. We used to do it solely based off the square foot, which is a good way to start, but you also have to take into account how many elements are in the mural and the style. So like Ashley and I, our biggest project so far was that art alley mural, and we thought doing something simple with basic shapes or whatever would be very quick, but we've come to find out that actually clean lines and shapes like that, they take longer than something that's loose or something that's more realistic, just because there's no blending, there's no nothing, you have to get that line so crisp. So really, we take into account just how long we think the project is actually going to take us. How many elements are in the design, how many words, if it's something like that, just how many elements and how much time, because every little thing is going to add more time. You might see a design, see the square footage and say, okay, well, it would be worth this much, but actually having all that stuff filled in, it's going to take a lot longer than we thought. We take a couple different things into account when figuring out how much we're going to charge for a mural. Our main base thing that we'll look at is the square footage of the design. So that just gives us kind of an idea of how much space we have to take up, help us with the mock-ups. And then from there, we'll talk with the client and see what they're actually looking for. So a simple 2-color design, like their logo, slap it on there. Do they want something artistic, realistic? Do they want the Mona Lisa up there? I don't know. We have to figure that out. So then from there, once we have their subject and all the elements they need included in the mural, we'll look at that. Like, okay, they have 10 people they want painted on here versus 5. So that would be a different charge in the square footage. And then also you take into account the style. So you would think maybe more simple designs, like one color, straight lines would be quicker. But actually we found that spray painting or doing stuff more realistic where you can blend and everything is quicker. So once you kind of know what takes you the longest, then go from there and use that price to help determine your square footage.
Other factors also come into play, like the complexity of it, the style, and the texture,
surface of the wall.
That's a big one.
Indoor, outdoor, living in Louisiana, one of our hottest murals, we might be free all day, but if it's 100 degrees for 2 hours out of the day, that's going to slow you down and make it take longer. So if you're going to do this full time, you really have to take into account how quickly you can get a project done. Because, it doesn't matter if you've agreed to a price and a project you thought was going to take you 2 weeks takes you a month, then, you've cut yourself short for the month. You're not going to be able to make anything that rest. So you really have to think, how long is this going to take and your other expenses. So you can't just, be willy-nilly with your pricing. You really need to figure out something that's fair.
Yeah, and I think just a conversation about budget too, before you waste your time creating this extravagant, just detailed mock-up, I think it's important to just have a conversation about hey, well, what really is the budget, because I can paint you something that's $50,000, but if you don't have $50,000, your budget is only $5,000, then we're gonna have to change the style or scale down. So that's important too, just to have a conversation, but also stand firm in your abilities and doing this. It's not everybody can do this. You have something special, obviously. And people are willing to pay for it. So just keep that in mind. I struggle with that. like just undervaluing myself and like undercharging, which is this next question. Undercharging. I did that for like a long time, but eventually you just get sick of it because you're like, wow, I've been working on this mural for 2 months and I'm getting paid $500 for it. You know, you got to really stand your ground sometimes.
Yes, and when that project extends longer than you thought, you're trying to finish this one and still thinking about, okay, once I get paid for this, what else am I going to do next? And that puts you in a really miserable situation.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be mad at yourself and you don't want to be mad at your client. So really getting that equitable, like good price at the beginning is important. Or setting that expectation, like Ashley said, of what they can afford and what you can do for that.
Yeah, it says, have you ever undercharged and what did you learn from it? I feel like we basically just told you.
Okay, so but we can.
Yeah, have you ever undercharged and what did you learn from it?
Yes, we have definitely undercharged before. There are a lot of things to take into account that you just don't know of until you do it. So we'll try to help you out and tell you all that we can. We're about to start a Mural Tip Monday series on TikTok. Follow us there. Yeah. So we'll come up with some shorter tips. But
we definitely undercharged on like the smaller murals because this space was so small. We thought it would take less time, but in reality, we had to use, instead of using like spray paint or like these big brushes that could cover a lot of ground on like a massive mural, we were working with like teeny tiny brushes, and working on a teeny tiny piece can take a long time versus just spray painting and getting it done so quick, you know. So we definitely undercharged on most of the small murals.
Yes, definitely that, because like we said, you really need to take into account how many actual elements are in the piece, not just like the square footage, like Ashley said, because even if something is on a 5x5 wall, if there are 50 little tiny objects you have to paint in it, that's going to take longer than it would for us to paint a 50x10 that's just a logo, when you get down to it. So taking those things to account. When you're painting at home, painting for yourself, it might be a good idea to time yourself and see how long it takes so you have a good idea. And again, we never want you to undercharge if at all possible, because by the end you'll be mad at yourself and the client, or maybe both. And if you would have talked about it in the beginning and gotten that expectation down, you would have saved yourself a lot of trouble, time and money.
It says, how do you handle revisions or difficult clients? We do like usually a design fee, and then we have like 3 revisions usually. Depends on who we're working with.
Yes, I think we've definitely gotten more strict because we got burned at one time. So it's always good when you're having that conversation about their budget and stuff. We like to always give them an idea of, okay, for our design thing, we'll usually give them 2 or 3 concepts. And that's like, okay, you want a giant blimp, you want a giant rubber duck, or do you want a lion? Then they'll say, okay, we want a lion. And then, okay, what color lion, blah, 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 blah. We'll do a more refined version. And then from there, they can have up to 2 or 3 revisions depending on the client and how fast we're trying to go.
Some clients are pretty chill with mock-ups. You could send them kind of like a sketch of what it's going to look like and they can see it. But other clients need to see everything exactly the way it will be painted. So that takes longer. You have to take that into account too with how you charge your design fees.
Yeah, so like I said, we like to set that expectation of like 2 to 3 revisions afterwards. And then we also tell them with that, anything additional will be an hourly charge or whatever you want to charge. So that helps them focus more on what they want to change and like actually be like, okay, I have 1 round and then 1 more to get everything out. So it makes them actually think about what they want to see versus just like, well, can we see it purple? Can we see it yellow? Could you maybe add this? Could you do that? Like, which to be fair, they don't do this. They don't know how the design process works, but you have to kind of lead the client in a way that goes with your workflow. Yeah. So you want to set that expectation too.
Yep. That was rough that one time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. The creative process. What inspires your designs the most? Well, we live in Louisiana, so I feel like nature comes into play a lot. And around here in Monroe, specifically, herons are like a really big thing, so we paint a lot of herons. Just based off of the town we're in, we'll take the elements that are most known and we'll just play off of those. It just really depends on where we are, and we try to listen to the community and base our designs that way.
And a lot of the times too, you'll see once you get into this more, but if you're doing like a public call for murals ran by your city or something, they'll probably have a design that is, or they'll probably have some certain criteria you need to meet, something that this design needs to be based on, a theme. The same for the businesses. They want something that represents their business, represents them. They'll give us some elements like that, and we'll try to work in our style, what we know how to do best. Like whenever we can, we love to spray paint. We love to do like realism. We'd like to do some like the bigger the better, different textures and all that. So it really just depends on what the client wants from us, what they're trying to get out of this mural, their budget. So that helps us determine the style too. And then also what we like, obviously. We're going to try to make the mural something that me and Ashley would be proud to post or whatever.
Like we definitely want to have our own like little touch on there. I think for us, it's probably our color. We use color, like vibrant colors. What's your favorite part of the mural process? We charge a deposit, so 50% at the beginning, and then 50% at the end. So I think whenever we get that deposit, we're super excited.
Yes.
Because we have officially scheduled a mural, and that comes with a new video, new content, a new atmosphere, new people you get to hang out with. So just everything that comes with that is like super exciting. I think that's my favorite part.
And I always love showing it to people too, like whoever commissioned us to do it, when they see the final product. Because usually we get a lot done at the last hour. So from when the people see it the last time to when it's finished, there's usually a lot of changes. So
yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with that part. Because it's like we like totally work ourselves to death, at the very end. And then we're like, oh, I'm so glad to be done. But also like, dang, we just did that.
Yes, but the people... seeing it and saying how nice it is always makes us kind of forget how miserable we are.
Yeah.
So that,
getting compliments.
And talking to people like we had in Winfield, like people coming up and sharing stories and stuff, like that part's always nice. And to like hear that people appreciate what we're doing.
Yeah, that does feel very, very nice. How do you stay creative when you're exhausted? I think it's good having each other.
Yeah.
Because if he's super tired, I'll push him or go the extra mile that day. But if I'm super tired, I'll like put on Kaylani or something to hype me up.
Yeah.
Lots of energy drinks and coffee. Because sometimes we just like have to hit a deadline, and deadline's ridiculous. So.
And this being our full-time job, there are some days, a lot of the times when we're painting a mural, it is very physically demanding living in Louisiana or whatever, going up and down your ladder, standing, painting if it's hot. So sometimes we're not going to be that creative outside of the mural work. Like we're painting and we're going home, depending on how long the project is or how close our deadline is. Because we do kind of like to do a mural, and then in the time that we're off, that's when we'll make more of our private art.
I totally miss that stay creative part. For me, I thought that it was like, how do you get through when you're exhausted? Yeah. But, yeah, staying creative. I think that, we definitely have to have a break, after we paint a mural. And then that break kind of gives us time to just like...
It's kind of a good cycle, because when we're painting for ourselves, it's fun and we like to be creative, but also that can be kind of because we're painting something we don't know if we're going to sell the paintings, who they're going to go to, whatever. Yeah. Versus a mural, that's guaranteed. We know what we're going to make for that. But it's not always going to be, it's not going to be necessarily our style or what we would just like to paint in our free time. So it's kind of good. It helps us have a balance of going back and forth.
Yeah, I would say so too.
But we're usually not burning the candle at both ends. We're hardly ever doing murals and that same night doing other creative stuff. Because, it does take creative energy, even though the murals are a little bit simpler, I guess, just because they're bigger. So you're not, using as many of your artistic skills at once. It feels less like it, but...
Yeah, it's very difficult to work on something outside of a mural. Like if we have a show coming up or something, like that's very hard. Just try to keep one project going at a time. We've had overlapping projects before, and that was like really difficult. Which answers the question to this: what's the hardest part about painting murals? I think whenever we have those overlapping murals, that's happened a few times. That is like very difficult. Scheduling wise and everything.
And
What's the hardest part about painting murals?
And another part that's hard about painting murals too is just like the scheduling of it, because I mean, depending on the weather, if it's indoor or outdoor, that's tough.
For sure.
Life stuff, the holidays, and then businesses, when they can be open, when they can't, when you can have your lift in the way. Mm-hmm. So just all that scheduling stuff is really tough.
Yeah, because sometimes you can't pay, if you're painting inside of a business, you have to wait until after they close. So sometimes you're working like overnight, which is difficult.
Or like when we had that art alley one, and it was like, okay, we have a week when this project has to be finished. The street is shut down, so we can't extend it. And then the last week we're supposed to have, it's going to rain. So then we had to run around and scramble and get people to help because we have a whole week less than we thought. So really those just like environmental and logistical planning things are the most difficult part, I would say.
How do you keep a positive mindset through it all?
I mean, a positive mindset. I feel like, I don't know if positive is the right word, but you know, it's just like, we got to get it done. I don't know. You're just
there's no other
it's not
choice.
An option. So
you have to get it done. You committed, you know?
And then once we finish and we get the positivity comes back.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It's like running a marathon. You know, you're like at the very end, or you're in the middle, and it's like the hardest, or at the beginning. I feel like the beginning is probably harder. I've only ran a half marathon, but yeah, it's like running a marathon, and then you just know that once you hit that finish line, like you're gonna feel so good, and like you'll look back and be like, oh yes, I did that, and the mural will be up for a long time. So, what advice do you have to an artist afraid to show their work online?
I would say just post it. I mean, you just have to put it out there. Like I said, nobody is walking around doors knocking. Do you have some paintings that I could buy? No. So if people don't know it's out there, they're not going to ask for it. You're not going to do it. So you just have to put it out there. And this might sound not the nicest or whatever, but I mean, if you go to an art fair somewhere, there's some people putting out all kinds of stuff. So if they can do it, you can do it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, everything sells. Like,
yes.
Everything can sell. It doesn't matter what you have. Like, just put it out there. Somebody's going to connect with it, and they're going to give you money for it. So,
Damien Hirst paints a bunch of dots. Has more money than I'll ever have. So, you just need to paint something. Do whatever you like to do. Stick to it and put it out there and be consistent.
Yeah, there's this girl who farts in a bag, and she literally sends it through the mail. Yeah. And she gets paid for it. I mean, it's art.
Before you do that one, check the rules at your craft fair.
What would you tell your younger self starting out?
I would say start posting sooner and start trying sooner because I went to medical school, got a biology degree, all that. Had I just started posting when I was in high school, when I didn't have any bills or anything, I probably could have, been even further in my career now. So the longer you wait to start, the further away your goal is going to be. So. Yeah.
I had an old boss tell me that, because I told him I wanted to be an artist for a living, and he asked me, well, how are you going to make money? And so I would tell my younger self that you can make money being an artist. You can do that because it's just like any other business. You can literally sell anything. Just, you have to learn, entrepreneurship, business, just like anything else.
And art is especially good. I mean, think about how many adults I hear it 100 times every time I go to an art festival or whatever. I can't draw a stick figure.
Yeah.
I mean, drawing and painting is not something that a lot of adults do. So
you just got to put yourself out there in front of like the right people, and just share your work so people know about you. What's the one thing that you wish you knew before painting murals? Don't undercharge.
Yes, that's the main thing. Don't. Make sure you know your value.
And a lot of people, they don't really know how much things cost, when it comes to murals. Especially, if you live in a small town, you probably don't have that very many murals there. And so people just don't know. It takes research and trial and error.
Yeah, so you do have to be ready for that, too, when you talk to people. And if they balk at your price or something. But, like Ashley said, people don't know how much murals cost. I mean, I don't know how much, a sauna costs. I don't know how much a ton of things cost. And I don't know, what would I guess, $20? And if it's much more than that, then I might be shocked. So that's another thing with talking to your clients and setting up that expectation, of how much things are going to cost and all that.
Yeah.
So that way people have a good idea and you're not, like Ashley said, making a big, great mock-up for somebody that's only willing to spend $500, Yeah. And I wouldn't recommend doing a mural for $500 unless it's very tiny.
Yeah.
Of any sort.
I mean, go look at some, those graphics that you put on, like, the wall. Mm-hmm. You get them printed and you just, like, put them on the wall. And sign makers, go look at how much they charge. Like, I was charging my murals, like, less than that. Undercharging. So, what's the value of a hand-painted mural? It's, like, high,
And you have to think, murals, paintings, art, as much as we love them, and they are important to everyday life, they are not a necessity, not a need. Nobody needs a mural. This is a luxury good. This is something that is extra, and most adults can't paint, can't do art, so you need to value that.
What's your biggest piece of advice for artists who want to go full-time?
I would say definitely make connections in your community, your friends and stuff. Put your stuff out there, because you're going to need people to buy your art. You're going to need people to want to support you, rep you, give your name to other people, stuff like that. I mean, Ashley and I, we've done really well here in Monroe. It's a small town, but I've lived here for 10 years. Ashley's lived here for, 6 years now. Been back here, and she grew up here. So having those connections to our community, having people that know us and trust us has helped us get a lot of jobs. So I would say connect to your arts community, post, and save up. I mean, have a backup job, because you never know when things are going to come and go. It's always, like they say, when it rains, it pours, and then, when it's not, it's not. So I would say save up, always, try to do what you can. Take commissions, even if they're not your favorite. Always hustle and be looking for more ways to make money.
Yeah. And I will say that, if you live in a small town, you actually have an advantage, because there's so many walls and there's probably less people who have the talent that you can do. So I would, if I were you and I lived in a small town, I would just open that door and just get out there and start painting murals and make it a boom in your small town. Because I'm sure somebody would be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I would love for my building to have more value and for people to stop by and have people, take pictures on it. There's tons of broken down, just ugly walls out there that could be painted on. And if you live in a small town, I feel like you do have an advantage versus everything being so saturated in a big city. You just got to go out there and push it. What's next for Krewe Creative?
Well, hopefully you'll be seeing us working on some bigger projects. We're about to apply to some bigger ones across Louisiana, getting into sculpture and murals, maybe incorporating our art that way, figuring out how to work with teams, stuff like that, some engineering, some whatever. So that's our next goal. We want to get into bigger, even better projects.
Yeah. We have a few murals on the horizon, but nothing is set in stone yet. So, we'll see. Stay tuned. What kind of legacy do you want to leave through your murals? I feel like, for me, having murals in your community, it totally changes the vibe of a place. It creates a more positive atmosphere, something for people who live there to be proud of. So I think for me, the legacy I want to leave is just brightness and positivity and, a rainbow sort of.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Kind of the same thing. I mean, I just love seeing how much people appreciate the murals in their community and creating something that's bonding for people there. In places where my grandparents live in Farmerville, I mean, they've had a mural on a wall there, and everybody knows about it. Everybody talks about it. That thing. So those murals help people feel their space is valued and they like it, and then it also creates kind of a shared memory. So I really like that aspect.
Thank you all for watching this video. If you like this kind of content, just hit that like button and we'll make more videos like this. We plan to make some videos like this in the future that are like more informative and have like a specific question that we're answering and just like going all in on that. If you have questions, definitely leave them in the comments so we can make a video off of that.
Yes, and like I said, we'll be doing some mural tip videos coming soon. So like I said, any of your specific questions, let us know and we'll try to answer, because we want to save y'all as much time and money as we can.
Yeah, definitely.
And we made plenty of mistakes for you to learn from. So
yeah, we're still learning to this day. We might look back on this video and think, wow, you know, we totally grew out of that. Yeah. But as of right now, these are our best tips. Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram at Krewe Creative. You can go to our website, Krewe Creative. We have merch on there. We have some cool shirts. I think I have one on right now. Yeah, we have these like alligator shirts. Got as an artist. Oh yeah, hats. So go check it out. We'll leave that in the description too. So.
Ding.